Okay, so the color wheels, we're doing, these are fun exercises using whatever palette or paints you have. So if you don't need to buy any new paints, but taking out your palettes that you have, this is a really great way, actually, I've done a couple of them so far, to see what colors you have and how they mix together and how they make new colors. And so what it is we've got your primary colors, yellow, red, and blue, and their secondary colors, orange, green, and purple. And then your tertiary colors, which are, yellow, orange, red, purple, blue, purple, green, blue, and yellow, green. So, and this is a really fun way. Now I've labeled every one of these with the brand, so I know in which palette it came from, because I have lots of palettes. So I have, this is actually a Daniel Smith palette and some Schminke colors. The circle in the middle, what that is actually glazing of each color that I mixed to make a neutral, almost black. You lose all your light that way, which is good. This is kind of shows you that you can make a very dark color with just your basic colors, your primary colors that you have. So, and this one here is using a different palette that has mostly, looks like some Daniel Smith, and kind of a mix. But I noticed that even my colors are slightly different, but they make this is what does it say here? Marine blue, and this one's a phthalo blue, and you can see they're just differences. But I'm really happy, and I could see some fun things happening here, like the Holbein bamboo green mixed with the Holbein marine blue makes a beautiful blue green with the granulation. I've never seen that before. So these are a way to get to know your watercolors, also to understand the color wheel, what it means in watercolor. It's way different than your primary colors in acrylic paints or oils. So grab, so if you have paper, if you didn't trace it out ahead of time, you can still make a piece of pie shaped thing. I'm going to kind of play that. I'll explain that for you. I'm going to do this on a piece of paper so that we can at least have something that if you need to, if you really need to have something, you could use like something to make a circle, or if you have what are those things called? You can have a plate, you can put something kind of large out. So on your watercolor paper, I'm trying to see if I can find, that's probably as big as I can get there. So I've made a circle. Now that is my, the largest circle I can within the constraints of my paper. That's the first thing you need to do. Then what you're going to do is you're going to make a line. And this is kind of just like going through the center. And if you just kind of try to find the center, I don't have, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but let's say you find the center. Let's say it's right smack here. I'm just going to make a center place right here. That's going to be where I'm going to pivot my lines. So you're just going to divide it into, we're going to start by an 11 o'clock position, I guess it would be. And we're going to make a line here. You're going to make another line. It's going to try to, this is, here we go, like maybe 1 o'clock. I'm just going to make some lines, and I have to actually think of how many lines we need to make these grids. But I'm hoping that you have you have your template. It'd be a lot easier than doing it this way. So, because I'm just kind of making one that's not really that great, but at least you can see you can make your, divide your little places here, and I have to see how many we need. So that's a very bad piece of pie. But what you need is your three primary colors. That would be P, P, and P. And then you need your secondary. I think we're going to, I think this is fine. So you need your secondary colors, which would be secondary. And I've got to find it here. I got to look at my chart. So basically, I want my secondary to be here. Right here. It's going to be there. And this is harder to figure out. I'm sorry about this. And then T would be here, 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 and something here is going on. Anyway, it's going to be a little harder, but you can do it, just dividing it, into a pie shape. But I'm hoping that you had your template. We'll just go as if we had the template. And I'm going to just kind of show you what I did was I traced it out. Here's the template that we came with right here. It's just something I found really helpful because it really explains the color theory, you know, just color in general. So you've got your primary colors, and this is how you're going to label your, maybe what you could do too is if you don't have time to trace it out, there's other ways to do this. If you had a piece of carbon paper and just traced it over, you know, you could put some carbon paper underneath and then just traced over it. You could do it that way. But I really did, I used a light box because that's what I have. So, so your primary colors, or you're going to label, and what I did here is I labeled, and I did it with a pencil because I don't want to use a pen just yet. My primary colors are going to be here. Just kind of label it just like in your template. Here we go. I'm going to just use this as a guide so we have it like this. And here, I'll just actually show you that. I'll leave that there for a little bit. Your primaries are here, here, and here. So remember that triad. It's going to be yellow, red, and blue. So what you need to do in your palettes, like I've got this palette here I'm going to do today. I'm going to look at my colors, and I'm going to try to find out, I'm going to use whatever colors I want to use as my primaries. So my primary today is going to be quinacridone scarlet, but whatever you have in your palette, whatever you have in your particular watercolor thing here, you like this one tells, this is what I've got in this particular set that I have. So I'm going to have to only paint from this today because I want to see how these colors mix together. These need, you know, it's good to get to know them. So I'm going to use this quinacridone scarlet as my, if I didn't have that, I would use my cadmium red purple, you know, one of these two reds. That's going to be, so, and if you have a quinacridone red or quinacridone magenta, whatever you've got just in your red, use that as your primary red. And I'm going to use this areolin, which is just, you know, a yellow, a primary yellow. And then I'm going to use a blue, and I'm not sure which. I'll probably not use Prussian blue. I'll probably use the, I guess, the peacock blue, because I don't notice that I don't have a real pure blue here, but I'm going to go ahead and use that blue as my primary. Then is for my secondary, I'm going to use the orange, this brilliant orange, my quinacridone violet, and my sap green. And then for my tertiaries, I'm going to mix the colors together. So I'm going to mix, for the tertiaries, I'm going to mix the quinacridone scarlet with the blue, or the yellow, I'm sorry, to make a yellow orange. Anyway, I'll show you what I mean. I actually mix, you'll see what I mean by how I make the tertiaries, because I have to kind of explain it in the, I don't need to pick tertiary colors from here, just the primaries and the secondaries. Then we mix the tertiaries. So this is kind of how my thinking is going. So I have a little tray, and I have water, a brush, and this is giving you time to trace out your template if you have it. I'm hoping you do. Just makes it a lot more fun. And what I did is I made my circle that's in here a little bit larger for these. This is the one I did yesterday, and I decided to make my circle just a little bit larger to fill in the area. And I did that just by using a circle template. So that's kind of how the thinking goes on this. So now I'm going to just take my paper, and I'm going to put one of my, just take these away for a sec. And I'm going to put some my paper onto my little board here. I'm just going to tape it on just to kind of secure it so it won't go places. And it doesn't have to be, I'm not going to do any backgrounds. I'm not worried about it, you know, being on there just perfect or anything. I just want it to kind of be secured so it doesn't fly around or lift up. So I'm just doing these 4 corners or 4 edges. Now, you can, if you don't have a light box, I have a light box, but sometimes just a bright window. Take your template, stick, it's kind of, you can take some washi tape or masking tape, put that in your window so that so you're not having to hold it up. And so put this in your window where the bright light is, and then just stick your paper right over it, and you'll see perfectly, and you draw. Now that's going to take time because these little things take a little bit of time, but it's going to make such a satisfying exercise. Even if you can't do it with me right now, I really would like you to try tracing it out and doing it this way, because it's such a beautiful result. But if you want to do the pie thing, you know, just you're basically going to need Okay, let's go count around here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You need 12 pieces of pie, evenly spaced. However you do that. So 12 pieces of pie. So this is what we're going to work with today. And I'm going to just get my water and kind of straighten everything out. And I have this very lightly sketched so that, so you can see, and I'm going to just put my tray over here. So what I have is my colors. I'm going to start first with the yellow, the primary yellow. And it's nice to have this template because it kind of gives you a guide of where to go. So kind of look at that when you're doing it. So just the straight yellow, I'm just going to take it, and I'm not going to make a really heavy wash. I'm going to do like a half water. It's going to be a good bright yellow, but it doesn't have to be too much yellow. So there you can see, I'm going to scooch this over so you can see how I'm working. Here we go. That way, and maybe this can come a little here. So here's the yellow, and I think I've got enough paint to fill this yellow. The yellow is going to be right at the very top, 12 o'clock noon on your template. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill it in, and just go to the edges, to the penciled edges. If you don't have pencil, you can maybe just try to do it, make a little swatch in a circular place. You might be creative and just kind of do a little swatch that's up at the noon area, maybe around your circle. That might be a nice way to do it. So I'm not oversaturating it. I'm just giving it a nice even layer of color, of watercolor. You can see it's not too drippy. It's just kind of a nice medium layer. That's my yellow. Now, really importantly is between each color, clean your brushes out thoroughly. I don't have 2 things of water with me today, which I should have, but you really want to get your water, your brush really clean. Actually, I do have 2 things of water. I'm going to grab my drinking water. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get one more thing of water, because you'll want to rinse out your brush first. Let me just grab the water here. You want to rinse out your brush and then put it in the clear water again, just to confirm that it has no color in it. So I'm going to go ahead and just give myself a little more water to give my clear water, which is important to have. So I've got my dirty water and kind of my clear water. And this will guarantee that my brush is nice and clean. So now I've got this first one done. And I have a clean brush. And the second color is going to be my red. So it's going to be the red, which is in this 4 o'clock position on your clock, if this is a clock. So 4 o'clock will be your red. So I'm going to use, like I mentioned, quinacridone scarlet, which is a Holbein color. I don't know if Daniel Smith has a quinacridone scarlet. They may. I should know, but I don't know if they do. So, but I just love the Holbein colors, so I'm going to play with them today. So here's my, that I got to remember, it's got to be at the, let's say 8 o'clock position on your clock. So I'm going to go ahead and put my quinacridone scarlet. Is it kind of a pinkish color as I lay it down, but this is going to be my primary red. In watercolors, this is such a different thing. And if you have only magenta, you can make that your primary red if you want. If you have your Hansa yellow, phthalo blue, and quinacridone magenta, those can be your primary colors. So there is my, oops, I put it in the wrong place, guys. Okay, so I'm just gonna have to reverse this. This should have been over here. I just reversed it, but that's okay. I whacked it out. Oh well, it's all right.
It means you're human.
Yes, I am. That's for sure. I feel it all the time. So I'm gonna do. It's supposed to be flipped, but it's not like set in stone. So I'm gonna put my blue over here in this spot. So I'm gonna clean out my. I'm gonna clean it out, and I'm gonna use this blue. Whoops, what blue is that? I'm gonna use that peacock blue, which is right there. And you want to make sure your colors aren't contaminated. If you have like other colors mixed with them, which I often do, just kind of clean that out. make sure your colors are as pure as they can be. So here's my blue, which is really supposed to be red, but hey, it's all right. It's gonna still be great, but I still have, then I have to just kind of think about the other colors as I move around. So I'm gonna put my blue over here, going against convention, which is all right. And just gonna fill this in with an even amount, as much as I can. And this is also a really interesting way to get to know your watercolors. How much control, or how do they lay down? Do they have granulation? What do they have? Welcome to everybody that's coming in. We're just getting started. So we've got our primaries right there. It's supposed to be, well, anyway, we won't. If it was mirrored, it would be yellow, red, and blue, but it's yellow, blue, and red today. So I'm going to clean out my brush completely, and I'm going to think about my secondary colors. Now, here's where we have to think differently than that's on your chart. If you mix yellow and blue together, what do you get? You get a green, right? So I'm going to put my green in this secondary spot, right in the 2 o'clock spot. And this time, but I do have a green that I'm going to use. And I'm going to use something called, it's Sap Green. I'm going to get that yellow out of there. I'm just going to use my Sap Green, which is an already made color. If you don't have color, you can mix your blue and your yellow that you already have. You can just mix those two to make a green. And then just put that in this spot here, place number 2. Secondary color, spot number 2. And just kind of get a nice even coating, or an even, just, this is really wet. I kind of have got too much water in there. Now, if you find that you have too much water and it's going to be puddling, you could get some of the water out, but I'm just going to go with it right now. I'm not going to be too fussy. I just want to see what these colors do. But this one, if I turned it right now, it would drip, and that's way too much water. It's puddling. That's you can see how shiny that is. We'll just let it sit. I've got a dryer here. I can just dry. Now my secondary color that's right here is going to be a mixture of blue and red. So that's going to be my purple. And I see that I have a quinacridone violet that I'm going to use today to do my purple. Just going to try not to have too much. There we go. Here's my purple right here, quinacridone violet. There you go. And this is where you have to remember which colors you've used in your palette, because and what I usually do is I'm going to label these colors that are coming out of the pan, not the colors I'm mixing together, but the colors that are coming out of the pan, so I know which colors I need to work on when I'm mixing the tertiary colors. Just going to go inside and create a nice even wash, while it's just kind of nice mid-tone wash, and like try to get it even, but it's kind of puddling. Okay, so that's my purple, quinacridone purple. Now I'm going to label this so that I remember. I'm just going to label it very lightly in pencil, very lightly. Quin purple, and this one is called peacock blue. I could just go peacock blue, just so I remember. Sap green, and I'm going to do that. I'm doing this light because I plan to erase these pencil marks later. Sap green, and this is Aurelian. So I remember, and this one's called quinacridone scarlet. So just sketch it in, type, very lightly. So this one is going to be my orange, because it's a combination of red and yellow, which is going to make an orange. So I'm going to use my brilliant orange, which is really muddy. So I'm going to clean it out a little. It's got some other colors in it. Let me get that out of there. And then I'm going to just kind of mix up just make an orange right here. Now, one thing I forgot to do, and I'm going to do it next, is I'm going to do a glaze on the inside with each color. So I've got my orange. I'm going to just fill that in. I'm trying not to get my fingers or my hands in the other colors. Maybe I can just scooch it around. But this palette is, or this color wheel is looking completely different already than the ones I did before, because I've got different colors. So no matter how many watercolors you have or how few, you can really get to know them there. And if you don't have labels for your colors, like let's say you have a palette that doesn't have names, just kind of remember which ones you used. It's okay. So I've got my primaries and secondaries. Now I'm going to take that same orange and I'm going to actually take all my colors that I've mixed so far and I'm going to just mix them all together in one kind of mess. I mean, it's not a mess, but I'm just going to do it. I'm going to put that in the center. It's a neutral color I've just created out of all the colors. I'm going to put that one in my center just so I don't waste any paint. I'm just going to make that go right in here. And that's kind of turning out more of a brown than it is a gray, but it is a neutral, you know, it's a nice neutral color. I'm just going to pick up all that color and get it in there and try to get it as even as I can, but it's all right. And I'll keep working on that center part as I move throughout my color wheel here. But that's giving me, it kind of looks like a flower when it's all said and done too, because it got a little center part, kind of like a colorful sunflower. So I've got my center part done. It's not even, but it is what it is. There it is. So there we go. Now I'm going to start mixing. Well, actually, I'm not going to mix. I'm going to clean my brush out. I'm going to just dry off a little bit. I need to just dry this so that it's not this puddly stuff here. I just need to dry it off a little. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get this as dry as I can. And I'd love to see what paints do. I haven't worked with this palette in a really long time, probably for 2 years. I haven't opened that palette. Maybe it was a year ago. I don't know. I've got so many paints. But it's good to see how your paints are, you know, how they, you know, are they granulating or do they move around easily? Do they settle? What do they do? You know, this is how we have more successful paintings in the long run. Just knowing our watercolors, because you need to get to know them and if you need to have a refresher, just make another color wheel once in a while with them. And swatch them out. So I've got most of that pretty good. Lots of puddling in this one spot though. Hopefully, I'll just leave that alone. I'm not going to play with it right now. Okay, that'll dry eventually, maybe. What I could do too is take some of that color and try to draw it out a little bit with a brush. And of course, it left a big funny mess, but that's okay. It's not a painting. This is just a color exercise. So there, I've got that. Now I'm going to start with mixing my colors together to make the tertiary colors. So I'm going to mix this sap green with this cerulean. That's how I'm going to do that. So I'm going to take all this and clean it out so I can have a nice clean spot. Get some water in there to get all that out. Just kind of clean it out so I don't contaminate with other colors. Okay. Now I'm going to mix this cerulean with that. So I'm going to get some of that sap green that I already had made, or not made, but used, and some cerulean. I'm going to make a yellow green together and mix a couple of these. There we go. And I think I'm just going to fill it in and you'll see a beautiful new color made out of the colors I just already had. So it's already mapped out. Now at this point, I'm not having to guess anything. I just have to mix the colors that are in these, my primary and my secondary. And I've got a beautiful, beautiful yellow green. I love that color. So and you can also, if you want to see how if they're transparent, you could put some black line ink underneath, and you'll see if the paint creates a sediment on top. If you can see the watercolor on top of the black, you'll know it's not really transparent. So now I'm going to take this sap green, which is the color I just had, I used, and with this peacock blue, I'm going to make another tertiary color. So the peacock blue, which was, I don't remember where I had it. That must be it right here. Okay, this is my peacock blue. I'm going to mix it with the sap green with no yellow. I don't want any yellow in there, but I've got blue all of a sudden in there. There we go. And I'm going to have a little bit more of that. Okay, I'm going to put that in here. So this is going to be kind of a blue-green color. And the more blue I add is going to create more on the bluer side, and the more green I add is going to be on the greener side. But you can see there is a different tone or a different color here. I'm just going to stick it in my little pie right there. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now this one is going to be a combination of the peacock blue again and with the quin purple. And whatever colors you have, I can't wait to see what colors everyone has. So back to the peacock blue, and I want to make sure there's no green mixed with that, because you will change, it changes things very much when you have any of the other colors. So there, I've got that's now pure, and then I'll add some of that quinacridone violet. It's not purple, it's actually called quinacridone violet. And I'm going to mix those two together and put them in between these two. And there I've got a interesting blue purple color. It's an interesting one. And you'll see the differences on my other palettes, how you can make so many different colors with combinations of different colors. It's just, that's what I love about watercolor. It's so, well, I love about painting in general, but watercolor is my favorite because it's just spontaneous and it can be challenging, but it's so rewarding, and it is so easy to clean and keep around. So that one kind of came out a dark color, which tells me that most likely these two colors are not transparent, but it's still pretty. It's just not letting a lot of the light through from the paper. But it's still a pretty color. It's like a muted purple. This color is going to be a combination. This tertiary is between the purple and that red or the scarlet. We'll see what happens. So the scarlet is right here. I'm going to mix that, pull some of that out with some of that purple, and we'll see what we can get. We'll see. Here we go. Grab some of that and then make now quinacridone colors are, oops, I got the wrong color. That was the wrong color. I'm going to have to wipe that out. Back to the one I need, and I'm going to have to find some room here because I've got a very little room here on my palette to mix. There we go. Now I'm going to have a nice kind of a combination of these two. It's really wet, so I got to kind of squeegee that off a little bit. Beautiful color. I don't know, that's that Quin Scarlet I've rarely used, but I really think it's nice because it's a very nice bright color, but it's not real saturated. Just gonna get that in there and get that pie filled, that little slice there. And the reason I have the dividers, it just makes it easier. You don't have to dry between each color. But if you have your pieces of your slices right next to each other, just try to keep them from touching each other. My cat's having a fit. I hope you don't hear her. All right. So this one is going to be a combination of the scarlet and the orange, which I need to get another piece of paper towel to wipe this out so I can get some pure color. Get all that, get the green out, because then I'll get some green mixed with it, and that won't be what I want. I'll just kind of clean that out. And there we are. And clean with your clear brush, or yeah, clean it out with water. Okay, so this is my scarlet. And these are right next to each other, so that's easy. This is the scarlet, and this is my orange. And now I'm going to get myself a nice, kind of an interesting combination of the two. It's really not really much different. Maybe I didn't have enough. I think that the Quin Scarlet, there is not much color, and it's a lot different color. It's still there. It's going to be different, but it's not as dramatic as some of the other. And one thing I keep forgetting to do is doing the glazing. Now this is right now is dry, so I'm going to go ahead and take some of my color. I'm going to take this same color here, and I'm going to put it right over. I'm just glazing right over it. It's dry now, so I can do that. I'm going to do this on all the colors, and I haven't done it on all of them, but I'll keep adding color and glazing over. And this brush isn't the best brush for this, but it'll be all right. It's making, there we go, just a little glazing on the inside. Now, I'm gonna wait for that to dry before I do it again. This combination is going to be the Aeolian with the Brilliant Orange. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some orange and mix it with this Aeolian without trying not to have any green in there. And I'm going to do an orange, yellow orange color. I'm going to add some more yellow to that. And there we are. So now I've got a very colorful wheel going here. And I still need to glaze the center with layers of colors. And I'm not mixing new colors. I'm just layering with the colors I already have. So I've got a bunch of them in my tray here. So I'll use what's in the tray. And I've got all of those like that. So that's done there. And this part, I'll just go ahead and make this quick work of this in the middle. Just want to get the center dry, because when you're glazing, you never want to do it while it's still wet, because it will just, it'll lift the color that's underneath. So I'm going to take the color I was just using, and I'm going to go ahead and glaze the color, just a very light glaze. And fill that circle with the color. And then I'll dry. Oops, there we go. Dry it, and at the same time, I try to get everything else kind of dry. And as this, the more I glaze, the deeper that center is going to be, because it's going to block the light from the paper eventually. I just want to make sure each of that that is completely dry before I glaze again. That looks dry. I don't see any shine in it. I'm going to go ahead and take some of this blue that's in the tray here, that's already here, and I'll do a glaze of that, maybe the blue and green combination, why not? And just hit it with that, and I'll just keep layering until I get the depth. Just, I could have, what I did yesterday is I just did every time I did a color, I just did it in the center. And I had forgotten to share that with you today. I just get too excited when I'm working on the color wheel. Now this is puddling a little bit, but it's all right. It just tells you what kind of, how watercolors are. It's not, they don't disperse evenly sometimes. It creates texture, which is fine. I'm just going to get that center done like this. Until it's completely dry, which it is now. And I'm going to do another layer, and I'm going to grab some of that blue that I didn't, this peacock blue that I used. That's going to be in here just because I hadn't put the blue in there yet. And I'm just going to keep layering until I get it almost nearly black in that center with the glazing, which is what we would call this. And it's hard to get circles. Circles are really difficult. That's why I gave you a template. The circles are just not easy to fill in or anything. So I'm going to go ahead and take this. You can see how dark it's getting. And probably one more layer, which I'm going to do purple next. I haven't created new colors. I'm not, bringing out a black or anything, but got that dry. See how it's just getting darker, deeper and deeper just by each layer. Now the purple color, I'm going to go ahead and use that, and I'll make that I think I'll make that my last layer. And just go right in over. Whoa, that is an intense color, but it really darkened it beautifully.
Karen, did you email us the template, my friend?
Actually, the template was on the site for registering, and also, yeah, I didn't email it. I think it was only on the platform, and I just realized that not everybody goes to that. So the template's now in the chat, and if you want to grab that, were you able to get it from the chat, Melissa?
I'm looking. I don't see anything in the chat. Let me look though.
Okay, you know what I'll do is after
it might have come out before you logged on. If you want to send me an email, I'll put my email in the chat. I can email it to you, Melissa.
I saw that in
Thank you.
supply PDF and there were 3 different attachment, and I think one of was this color wheel.
Right.
Yes, you had 3, you had the PDF of the template and just the schedule for the month, the supply list and stuff like that. So yes, we'll get your, because this is a really fun thing to have, even if you couldn't do it today with me. Make sure we'll get everybody in. Melissa, I mean, if you, I can email you because I have, we have a direct, I can email it to you, no problem. So, but this is now the complete color wheel. You see how dark that got in the center. And now I can see my colors. So what I want to do now is I don't need to have all the little pencil marks, but what I do now next is I take a pen and I write down, and this is the fun part. This is kind of like the doodling part. And of course, this paper is all warped because I've been using heat gun, but what I'll do is I'll probably flatten it later. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, this is the part that makes it fun looking. It becomes like a little painting and something you can save. You can save these. And so like this one is going to be my Holbein palette. So I'm just going to write down here. It's my Holbein. So I'm just going to write Holbein. And you can do it in fun writing. There we go. Just as like you're journaling on your watercolor paper. And here I'm just going to write, and I'm going to do it kind of in a fun way because I want it to be, I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to kind of bring it around here. So I'm going to go quinacridone and spelling out just quinacridone. There we go. And that one is called quinacridone violet. So I have to remember that's not purple, it's violet. Okay, and this one is called, it's however you say it, areolin. That's whatever color that. So I'm going to put that word here. I'm going to spell it out. Like this. Oops. Here I'm just going to write yellow. Great. And then I'm going to write my blue, my peacock blue, and I'm just going to do it right here like this. And I could do it really, just slow. There, slow writing, just so I remember this color. And I just realized, yeah. Anyway. I'm not firing on all cylinders today. It's all right. Sap Green is here. So this one's the only one that's funny. And this one is called Brilliant Orange. So I'm just going to go around making like a journal like this. And I'll explain why I'm doing this. And this one is called Quinacridone Scarlet. Scarlet. All right, so that is done. Now what I do is I'm going to take an arrow and I'm just going to make my little arrow from the blue to make this. Basically, these little arrows tell me that I made this beautiful color out of those 2 colors. And this is like why I think this exercise is so amazing. So I made this gorgeous green. I just love this green out of these 2 colors. Now I know. Same thing here. So this new green, we can call it whatever we want. It's our own mix. Same thing here. I'm just going to make the little arrows. So that color, gorgeous color I made out of these. And this is not much of a difference here, but I'm just going to still identify that I made that color out of those 2. And then after it's all dry, or the ink's dry, and this is a combination of all colors. It just builds up. And then what I'm going to do is I just erase it, all my pencil marks. In fact, I try to erase anything that's anywhere. Just erase all of your pencil marks that you have on your paper, and you have this really cool color wheel that you've made. And you also have done a really amazing exercise on color theory, mixing colors. You've gotten to know your watercolors. Go ahead and erase all the little lines that are on your wheel or your flower or whatever this looks like. I think it's so pretty. And then once that's done, I'm just going to take this to the trash can. I don't want to put it on my thing. There we go. See how fun that looks? I just think that is really, and it's just so satisfying. I'll get rid of all the little pencil marks right there. And now I've got this chart for my Holbein. For this palette, now I have a chart. for these primary colors. And you can do this with all of your watercolors that you have. And I just think they turn out so cool. Here's the other two that I did yesterday. And I did get kind of lost in this exercise yesterday because it was just so much fun. And this is the core watercolors. These are Holbein. This is also Holbein, different colors. And this is a Daniel Smith and some Schminke. So I've got a handy watercolor wheel palette, handy watercolor wheels